All right, guys. Thanks again for taking the time to join us today for an incredible session where we're going to cover productivity with AI. Today, we will be diving into the all important intersection of adopting innovative AI technology and digital upskilling. Staying relevant, staying competitive is not just about embracing new tools like Microsoft's Copilot. It's also about ensuring that our people are empowered with the right skills and know how to not just navigate, but thrive in today's ever changing technology landscape. My name is Amola Kelly, and I lead the sales and marketing efforts here at Cobweb. Alongside me today is Orica from Storios. We're extremely lucky to have her here today. Not only does she bring a wealth of experience in technology, but she's also an author, a blogger, public speaker, and a passionate advocate for women in IT. Let's give her a warm Microsoft Teams welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here today.
Thanks, Ulrika. Glad you could join us. So, in today's rapidly changing technology landscape, it's so critical to stay ahead of the curve. Investing in new technology is not just about acquiring the latest, the most shiny tools, but it's also about creating an environment that fosters innovation and growth. It's about ensuring that your business is equipped to adapt, to evolve, and to thrive in the age of AI. New AI technology can streamline your operations, improve customer service, and open up new channels for growth. It can help you gain a competitive edge, make informed decisions, and drive positive business outcomes. But to fully leverage the benefits of this new technology, businesses need to embrace it at all levels and make it an integral part of their strategy. But technology alone is not the answer. Our employees are. It's the human element that plays a pivotal role in driving digital transformation. Upskilling your employees is is about more than just training them to use shiny new tools. It's about fostering that digital mindset, encouraging continuous learning and empowering them to leverage technology to be more productive and more innovative. Gartner recently released a paper titled Employee Experience Insights. And in this report, it clearly shows that organizations that invest in employees with relevant upskilling opportunities, their employees are proven to be more productive, more engaged, and more likely to stay with the company for longer. They can collaborate more efficiently with their colleagues, serve better customers, and contribute more to the company's overall success. So, by investing in a programmatic skilling program, businesses can build a workforce that is ready for the future. And this is where our partnership with Storials comes into play. Together with Storials, we at Cobweb are committed to providing digital leadership. Storials offers a modern, story based learning approach to help businesses transition to a modern digital workplace. And at Cobweb, we provide the technological solutions and support to make that transition smooth and effective. Our partnership is about more than just providing tools and training. It's about helping businesses navigate the digital landscape, overcome challenges, and seize critical business opportunities. One of our most recent customers, is a prime example of a successful digital transformation story. They're a household name in the retail sector. They have over 150 stores in the UAE and over 1,000 across the Middle East and the subcontinent. They recognize the pivotal role that employee engagement and productivity play in driving their business forward. And since implementing Storials, they've witnessed a significant uptick in productivity among their pilot group of users. And it is this success that has prompted them to expand the rollout across to more business units and locations, confident that it will continue to improve their overall business performance. It's amazing to see what businesses can achieve when they truly embrace the synergy between people and technology. Now, before we move on to handing it over to Oruka, here's a quick video introducing Storios Cobweb and Copilot. Wonderful. Over to you, Oruka.
Thank you so much, Amolak, for that great introduction. And I've already introduced myself, but let me just take this opportunity to welcome everyone. Again, my name is Ulrika Hedlund, and I'm the CEO and founder of Storios. And as you understand, we are passionate about upskilling and providing an entertaining and story-based training for organizations to upskill their employees in today's very fast-moving digital workplace. Today, we're going to be talking about Copilot and this amazing technology that we now have access to, both employees in your organization that have a Microsoft 365, in addition to those who have that premium license. So what I wanted to do today is to give you a little bit of a history so that you have a better understanding of what Copilot is with all of these different versions that we have, to demo. Maybe some of you haven't gotten your hands on Copilot yet, and also to walk you through some of the next steps that you can take. Now, I will be sharing my screen and I will be doing this presentation using Microsoft Whiteboard. Microsoft Whiteboard is one of those many amazing tools that you have as part of your Microsoft 365 workplace. And I love it as a tool to visualize and to share things. So let me share my screen. And just like you heard as well, we are here live for you. So if you have any questions or if there's something specific that you want to see, then please do raise your digital hand and come off mute. Okay, so Microsoft Copilot and productivity with AI. I've had the big fortune of using Copilot from early on. We've also been working with a number of customers that have been in the early access program for Copilot for Microsoft 365, and we're supporting these organizations as they develop these skills and see how these tools come to play. You've already heard a good introduction from Alok about AI and how this is coming into play, but I wanted to also share some trends that we're seeing and some early findings from these early access customers that are using generative AI in the workplace. So if we do a little bit of a background, what is Copilot and where does it come from? First of all, Copilot is Microsoft's version of generative AI tools in the workplace. It actually comes from the collaboration with OpenAI. Some of you might know OpenAI as the developers of ChatGPT. So in November 2022, OpenAI launched ChatGPT, and it became a world phenomenon. If we're looking at the time that it took for an app to reach 100 million users, it took the mobile phone 16 years, internet 7 years, Facebook 4.5 years, and ChatGPT only 3 months. So when we're talking about adoption, this is an extreme example of how quickly things are moving now. And also, artificial intelligence has been along for many, many decades, but it was first with this innovation that really brought this power to end users that it really caught on. And we're seeing the same now in the workplace. So Microsoft invested in OpenAI, and the same technology that ChatGPT is built on, the same foundation, they've taken that forward and further developed that and now introduced it into Microsoft's different tools. Now, if we look at a bigger kind of not just looking at Copilot, but looking at AI in general, again, it's still early days looking at AI in the workplace. So if you haven't started yet, don't worry about it, but it's definitely something that you should be looking into investing in. Already, this is a report from IDC. And they are seeing that companies that invest $1 in AI are seeing a return by 3.5 times actually. And it's actually quite quick as well. They're seeing that the return of this is quite fast. So within a year or less, they're seeing that return. But I do want to tell you here to have a bit of long-term approach, because it does take a lot of upskilling. It does also change the way that you're working. So you cannot expect to have an immediate ROI as soon as you get the technology. You need to, of course, have that long-term approach, invest in the technology, and also invest in the upskilling. And upskilling is one of the key things that is holding organizations back, because there's just not enough knowledge, and we're learning here as we go. And like I said, I'm very happy that we as a training company, Storials, that we are early on this and that we're already launching Copilot trainings for customers that want to get started early on. And I'll show you some more of that a bit later. I was asked a question the other day about AI and generative AI, and is it making us more stupid? Like using AI, do we stop thinking, and do we just rely on someone else or our co-pilot to do the work for us? And here I wanted to show an image, and this I actually took from another session that I attended. So it's not the best quality, but I thought it was such a good size. So this is a Microsoft event, and the business group lead there for modern work from Microsoft Sweden. And she showed this slide that I thought was so great. And it looks at where do we spend most of our time. So let's first look at if we do not have AI, if we do not use AI at all, we start with a blank page, and we're pretty average. We spend a lot of our time creating that first outline. Then we spend most of our time making something good, and then we deliver when it's great. But most of us deliver when it's great. Then you have using AI. The thing is, then you don't have to start from scratch. You don't have to start with an empty paper. You don't have to start thinking about your outline. That you can get help with. So when we start using AI, we're already at a pretty good state. And then we can spend most of our time making it perfect or even outstanding. So I really think that this is a good view, and this is how I talk about using AI in the workplace, is that we can take things that we would spend a lot of time on otherwise, like the drudgery of work, and we can spend most of our time really perfecting things and making it outstanding. And if you think about it, this is also more fun. It's more fun to spend your quality time on things that can really make things outstanding and make it great. So a little bit then about the different co-pilots that I talked about. So like I said, Microsoft have announced Copilot, but there are different versions also of Copilot. And Microsoft have also changed the naming from time to time, so it can be a bit tricky to keep up with all of the naming conventions. And Iram and Amulak, I'm going to have to tell you as well, if someone has their hand raised, please do interrupt me so I can take questions as we go, since when I get into a topic, I get quite focused on it. So when we look at Copilot, the Copilot versions that are available from Microsoft, there's a wide range. You have everything from Copilot for sales, Copilot for GitHub. There's a lot of different Copilots, so it's a bit tricky to keep up with all of the different versions. But I think this table is very important, and especially to focus on the ones that are for work, because here we're talking about productivity in the workplace. So first of all, Microsoft have announced a version of Copilot called Copilot with Commercial Data Protection. This was formerly called Bing Chat Enterprise. This is available for all employees within an organization that has a valid Microsoft 365 license. So think about it. If you already have Microsoft 365, then you already have the rights to start using Copilot. The Copilot version that is in the browser that does not have access to any of your enterprise data. This also means that you don't have to be so worried about protecting and looking at the classifications of your own company data because the Copilot only has access to external data. But the beauty here is that you have commercial data protection, which means that anything that your users paste or chat with the Copilot is protected. It is not leaked outside of your company. It is not used to train the model. So a lot of organizations that have banned internet-based tools can feel rest assured that they can use Copilot with commercial data protection. And I'll be showing you how this works and how you can start using this today. There is a toggle in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center where you can turn on Copilot with commercial data protection. But of course, also training and upskilling is needed for users on how to use this. The next level up, which is really about giving users superpowers, is Copilot for Microsoft 365. What we add here is access to what's called the Microsoft Graph. So all of the data and all of the signals that are in your digital workplace, who have I emailed, who have I chatted with, all of my documents, all the shared documents that I have in SharePoint and in my different team sites, all of that Copilot has access to and can all of a sudden start helping me to make sense of things, to summarize meetings, to give me more insightful actions. And this is where the real power of Copilot comes into play. So I wanted now to show you what it looks like and how you can see how it works in action. But maybe before I go into the demo, then I can ask, do we have any questions in the chat or from someone in the audience?
We don't have any questions as of yet.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So then let me go over to demo, and I'm going to start to show you just the one that I said, the Copilot with commercial data protection. So what you would do if you go to copilot.microsoft.com, and the first time that you go here, you will be asked to sign in. So the first time you'll be asked to sign in, so you can see here that I'm logged in with my demo account, ulrika@storios.net. Now, the very important thing is that you see the green badge here. This shows that it is protected. Any information that is put into this chat is for my eyes only. It's not being used to train the model. It's not being used externally. But I still have access to all of the information on the internet. Why don't we start asking it something? So summarize the key trends of generative AI in the workplace the past year. Okay. So now we're just using this as a research tool, but instead of just going online and searching for something, it also helps me make sense. And it helps me summarize data so that a lot of that work that I would otherwise have to do myself, it can just help me to summarize it. So let's see what we can get here. So some of the things that we've already talked about, right? That an explosive growth of generative AI, 40% of organizations plan to increase their overall investments. Here I also get the resource, the link, right? So I get the source, and as we always say, no matter if you're surfing on the internet, you always need to check the accuracy of your source, because Copilot with commercial data protection uses all of the information it's available on the internet. So we can also see that talent shifts their big efforts into reskilling that we've talked about. So here again, I can look at the different sources that it's used, and I can start exploring this more. So this is part of what we're talking about AI. It's about learning the art of prompting. How do you prompt to ensure that you get what you're looking for? So here I said summarize the key trends, and I gave it also the past year. So this is something that you need to start learning, and how you prompt to get out what you want. So say that, for instance, that you're a teacher and you want to explain what artificial intelligence is for kids. Well, then you want to make it a lot easier, right? So we can do then here, explain in simple terms for a 10-year-old, maybe 10-year-old, what artificial intelligence is. So again, it looks at the context, and it looks at the audience, and it will reshape the result and the answer based on who the audience is. And I love this because look at this. It's even putting in emojis with dogs and robots, and it's AI helps computers think and learn. It's like teaching your pet robot new tricks. So again, since it's built on a language model and it understands what words to use for what audience, you can really get help. You can get help refining text. You can get help explaining things. So you can, if you write something and you want to make it sound more professional, you can paste it in here and ask Copilot to rewrite it. You can ask it to come up with ideas. So list 5 ideas for good giveaways for less, let's say for about $20. So again, I just want to have some ideas. And again, I'm being quite, and now I didn't say that it would be for a digital prize. I didn't give it the context of what these giveaways should be. So now it's microwave popcorn popper. I don't know if that's a good price. Maybe we should have said the context that it's for corporate IT environment. But again, I'm getting a starting point for where I want to go. So again, this is Copilot with Microsoft 365 with commercial data protection, available for all employees that have a valid Microsoft 365 license. And again, we warmly encourage that you use this as the corporate solution for getting started with generative AI. Now, generative AI is not only text. So I can ask it, create an image of a happy teenager with ponytails doing a thumbs up. Perhaps I want to do an image for a newsletter or for something, and I just don't have the time to search for it, or I don't have someone that wants to be in the photo. So then you can use generative AI, and what it does actually, it looks at a lot of information that's available on the internet, and it creates it as a thumb up. Here, it's also very important to look at diversity, inclusion, and bias. So here you can see it's when I just wrote teenager, it gives me here a teenager that looks Afro-American. Now, if I say that I want to have a teenager that that is blonde or is redhead, I have to put that into my prompt. But it's also important to think about from an ethical use point, how is the historical data also building the foundation for the way that we want it to be in the future? So this is also really important to start thinking about, how has the data been trained? Microsoft has announced that there is a copyright protection. So if you're using Copilot, you are protected against copyright infringements. But it is important that you as a company, if you have a lot of IP, that you should not make that available, of course, on public-facing websites where it can be used to feed models that can create generative AI versions of it. And thanks everyone for answering and all of the questions that are coming in the chat. That's great. And also, again, please do interrupt me if there's something that you want us to look into more. So now, as of now, I've just been showing you Copilot that has access to data on the internet, but it has no access to data internally. But then let's switch gears and let's level it up and let's have a look at using Copilot with Copilot for Microsoft 365. So I'm going to switch again and I'm going to share my screen here and let's go into another demo environment. And here now I'm logged in as myself. I'm logged into an account where I have Copilot for Microsoft 365. So I could, of course, write copilot.microsoft.com, just like I did before. And you can see here that I have a toggle. So you can see here, web and work. This I didn't have before when I was using Copilot with just the commercial data protection. But here you can see that I'm using Copilot from Microsoft 365. So now I have access to also all of my corporate data. So, well, not, I shouldn't say all of my corporate data. I can say all of the data that Copilot has access to. So by default, this is the data that's stored in Microsoft 365. So OneDrive, email, attachments, SharePoint sites, etc. You can use something called Copilot Studio or Copilot connectors to connect Copilot to other data sources that you might have. And here there are already partners and platform developers that are developing plugins. So if you see this little button here, you can see these plugins. Right now, I'm only using web content, but you could add other plugins here to allow Copilot to have access to your other data as well. Now I went to copilot.microsoft.com, but most of the time this would be easily accessible to end users if they just sign in to their normal, office.com or their Microsoft365.com workplace. Of course, they would need to authenticate, and of course, we want everyone to have multi-factor authentication. But if they have that, they have the Copilot app easily accessible here in the left-hand corner, and they could just at any time just search for Copilot, and they have it available here through the web. So now I can say summarize the top 5 highlights of this report. And now I have access to the data in my own organization. So let's go here and let's take one of this. Let's take the marketing and budget strategy. So this is a report. It's many, many pages. It's a PDF document. And I just kind of want to get an overview of the highlights. Okay, so here we can see it goes through the document and it helps me focus on the most important things. So here we get the top highlights. We can see that the marketing budgets fall in 2023 compared to 2022. Now this is directly related to a document that I have within my workplace, but I can of course continue my research and ask about other things, right? So I can say, what is top of mind for CMOs today? Chief marketing officers. So first we looked at the highlights from the report, but now I want to extend the search and I want to ask Copilot for things kind of outside of this report, but it's also looking at data internally in my organization. So here I'm getting some more references. It's actually here it's still using the report that I referenced before. So it's continuing to look at the report. So then I would have to ask it to look outside of this report as well, to look in other resources. Now we're just, again, using Copilot, but what does this look like in our day-to-day tools? Because this is, again, the value that you get, not just that it's available that it has access to your enterprise data, but that it's actually available right there from within your tools. So let's open up Word. And most of us, when we're going to write a presentation or something, we start with a blank document. And again, this is where we spend a lot of our time to get started writing. But what we really want to do is that we want to focus our time on perfecting this instead. So as you can see, I have the little Copilot icon here. I can also hover my mouse over here and I can see that I have this called Draft with Copilot. So if I click here, I can ask it to create a draft for me. Now, since I can reference a file, I can write something, but I can reference Copilot to something that's similar. So I can say, write a 5-step recommendation for using AI in the workplace, similar to, and then I can reference a find, and I think I already wrote something about here, internal guidelines here, and then generate. So again, I can point Copilot to something, and it will use some of that information to create a new document for me. So here I referenced a file and it starts giving some recommendations for, and I will just keep this. And now this gives me a starting point. Something that's really interesting here that I wanted to point out is that you can see here now that a sensitivity label has been restricted or has been enabled. This one has actually been stamped now that it has the sensitivity label, general, all employees unrestricted. This is because Copilot is using data from a document that had this sensitivity labeling. And therefore, this document will also have the same labeling. Now, if it's a general document, it doesn't matter. But if you think about it, if you use Copilot for a document that is classified as confidential, then the new document that's referencing or using information from that initial document will also be marked with the sensitivity label confidential, and all of the rules that you've put in place for confidential documents will apply. And this is why it's so important that before you start using Copilot for Microsoft 365, the one that has access to your company data, that you have a good foundation in place for your information management, both from a permissions perspective, who has access to the data, and also from a retention policy and from a sensitivity labeling. How are you classifying your information? And this is something that's not unique to Copilot, of course, but it becomes even more important because Copilot is so much better than we as humans are at finding information and at summarizing information and getting access to information that is available all over. So something that's extremely important, of course, is to make sure that the people that have a Copilot do not have access to more things than they should have access to. So let me go back to my whiteboard here. So, and even here, you can see even in Whiteboard, I have Copilot. So a similar idea to that we had. Okay, suggest some giveaways for $20 for an IT company. See if it gives us something that's a little bit more related to like mouse pads or something. Let's see what it comes up with. So again, now I'm using Copilot and Whiteboard to help me with my brainstorming. So I don't just have to, something went wrong. Okay, so again, this is something that you need to get used to for using Copilot. It is learning in progress. Let's see if it can, if we make it a bit simpler. Ah, here we go. Wireless earbuds, portable charger, fuzzy socks, and cozy blanket. I don't know. But what I could do is I could insert these or I could generate more. So I'm going to skip that for now, but I just wanted to show you that the Copilot, when you have Copilot for Microsoft 365, you have it in all of your tools. You have it in Outlook, you have it in Excel, you have it in Word, you have it in Loop, you have it in Whiteboard. So it really is a great companion that's there by your side. Before I go on and we look at how to get started and how you can start training your employees on this, do we have any other questions maybe in the chat or from the audience that you would like to ask? Or Amala, can you please share some of the questions that you're answering here in the chat or in the Q&A?
Sure. The last one we received was from Sandeep. He asked whether or not a trial is
Mm.
available for Copilot. Did you want to address that, Ulrika?
Yeah, great question. So the answer is no. Microsoft have been very, very restrictive when it comes to Microsoft Copilot for Microsoft 365. And also the reason to that is that it takes also enormous data powers. Microsoft are building out their data centers to be able to support this explosive use of generative AI and Copilot. What they did, and this was quite recently, before you actually had to buy 300 user licenses of Microsoft Copilot. They have now reduced that limit. So now there's no restriction on how many Copilot licenses you buy. So that's great. So there's no, again, limit on the number of licenses. However, it is an paid upfront commitment, and you have to pay for 1 year up in front. So there are no trial licenses, and you have to pay for the full year. Yes.
And if
Now,
anybody wants
yeah.
more information on that, please reach out to our sales team, and we can help you get more information on that.
Great. So, and this is definitely, if you are working with an IT, then again, I warmly recommend that you start trialing this, but that you'd also do it in a pilot phase before you roll it out. Like I said, using Copilot with commercial data protection, no problem, because it does not have access to any of your internal data. So that is something that is highly recommended that you start with. However, again, using Copilot for Microsoft 365, here you have some work to do before you start rolling that out to your end users. Great. Thank you for sharing those questions. So let's look into that then. How do you get started? Well, so like I said, having that information access review, who has access to what. Another very, very common mistake in using Microsoft Teams is that organizations have created public teams in Microsoft Teams, and they think that only the members of that team have access to the data. But in fact, that's not the case. If you create a public team, everyone within the organization, even the people that are not members of that team, have access to all of that data. So you need to make sure that your teams that have information that should not be shared with everyone and everyone's Copilot, that it is a private team. Same thing goes with SharePoint sites. A lot of SharePoint sites are set up to have the permission setting everyone except external users, which means that anyone internally can access it. This is also something that you should be reviewing, who has access to the information in our different SharePoint sites. Of course, you need to have multi-factor authentication enabled, just because if someone gets hold of an account where you have Copilot, they can also use Copilot to get access to even more information. So make sure that you protect your accounts. And then, of course, upskilling employees. And that's why I'm so happy about this partnership between Cobweb and Storials, because at Storials, what we do is that we train organizations. But we do it in a very modern way that makes it extremely cost effective, and it also makes it sustainable over time. So the way that we do it is that we mix on-demand training. So in your own environment, we provide users access with evergreen, continuously updated training on how to use Microsoft 365. And not just Copilot, but also the underlying technologies that is so important that you understand, and that Whiteboard, using Teams, all of these things, because you cannot just train people on Copilot, you need to train them on the underlying technologies as well. We combine the on-demand training with live instructor-led coaching as part of our training program. So here we have instructors that help drive the learning within the organization. And like I said, it's not just Copilot, but it's also training users in a story-based way, showing real life scenarios of how to use these tools, continuously updated as part of your digital workplace. So we have a few more minutes. So I thought I would also show what this looks like. And I'm really happy that you also shared, our the joint customer who just got started using this. And we've seen a really good feedback from them in terms of how their end users experience the learning. And like you said, also employees that get investment in terms of learning and training, they not only do they perform better, but they also tend to stay longer within the organization. So it's a win-win for both the employee as well as the employer. So when you install Storios, first of all, you get a digital workplace starting page from within SharePoint Online. Now, this is branded Storios, but of course, if you're using your own SharePoint site, this will be branded with your own branding colors. Here, users get access to these on-demand courses that they can take at any time, and users get certificates when they have gone through the training. So if you want to go through the intranet portal, you can, but more and more organizations that we see actually want to have all of the learning available directly from within Teams. So here, users can go and they can access their course catalog right from within Teams. Teams on the desktop or Teams on their iPad or Teams on their mobile. So let's have a look at one of the courses here. And again, as an organization, you can enroll users yourself, as an organization, or users can find trainings themselves and they can enroll to the trainings. So here we will now start this training. And the system is now tracking that we're signed in, and now we can start the course. And if I share here, very much of the same things that we've talked about here. We talk about, let's start this and see if it shares here. So we go through how to use AI, the background, what you need to be aware about, guidance and tips for using Copilot, and also the responsibility of using it as an employee, using it on the mobile. And again, it is our job at Storios to keep this learning content updated, which is a massive task since Microsoft changed this all the time. But the benefit is that, you don't have to worry about keeping the learning content up to date. We will take care of that for you. But as an organization and as a company, you can ensure that your employees have gone through the training that they have been assigned. So you can get a transcript where you can see the completed training, and even managers can go and see if their direct employees have completed the training that has been assigned to them. So it is a very cost-effective way of making sure that your employees are skilled, not just on the tools that they have today, but on the tools that are coming, in the future as well. So I wanted to round off a little bit here. Let's go back to my whiteboard and a little bit of a call to action before I hand it over to Amalak to also talk about some of the things that I believe that someone can win as well. Let's see, you can share a little bit more about that. So a bit of a call to action here. First of all, there's no question about if we should do AI or not. Yes, you should. If you want to be in a digital leader and you want to stay ahead, then yes, you want to start with AI. And not just from an end user employee perspective, but for your developers, for your data analysts. So definitely start looking at AI. But Copilot is the natural way to start with AI if you're already using Microsoft 365. Again, upskill your employees. Normally, when you have technology, you should earmark 20% of a license cost into training. But most of the time, that's not enough. And when I can tell you, when it comes to Copilot and generative AI, it's a different way of thinking and it's a different way of working. So here, more needs to be invested in upskilling. But the rewards, again, are so much higher. like I said, you can work in parallel when it comes to doing your preparations for Copilot, Microsoft 365, and enabling Copilot from commercial data protection. I can assure you that you already, most of the time, you would have employees that are using online services where you have no control. So it's much better to encourage them to use Copilot with commercial data protection so that the data is protected. And here you can also get them started on how to prompt and how to think about giving context and how to learn. And then, of course, the full rollout. But again, it is super important that you don't give Copilot licenses or Copilot tools to someone that has no clue of how to use it and that also don't know their own responsibility. So upskilling, preparation, and giving them the tools. And that way you will be able to unleash the superpowers of the employees in your workplace. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you again, Amalek. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was awesome. I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the demonstrations and the practical applications and use of Copilot. And I'm sure the audience did as well. So yes, so Ulrika alluded to a potential win, a prize for one of the attendees of our webinar today. So after the webinar, you'll all receive a thank you email with a link to a survey. Once you complete that survey, you will have an option to register for a personal Copilot demo. And that's where you have an opportunity to win an assessment. There was a question in the chat earlier on around how do we ensure that the data is not accessed by people that were not supposed to have access to that data. Now, all of that plus more will be covered in the assessment that is offered by Cobweb. So if you're interested in getting an assessment done and you'd like to win a free assessment, please register for that demo and we can communicate back to the audience around who was the lucky one to win that assessment. So now just before we end off, I wanted to take an opportunity, maybe Ulrika, if you have some time, we could take one or two questions from the audience. So anybody at all, please raise a hand. Or if you'd like to type it out in the chat or the Q&A, please do so as well. You have available a preeminent expert in Storyels who's been involved with Storyels in the beta stages as well. So any of the questions that you have around the background or its capabilities around stretching it outside of the org and building custom applications to perform very specific tasks, Ulrika is the one that can support you with that.
And while we're waiting for people to gather the courage to ask, I can share a little bit about some of the use cases that I've seen that are spectacular. So the first one is in Teams meetings. So a lot of us sit in a lot of meetings, and it's extremely important to follow up on what was decided and what were the action items. And you're also struggling, like who's keeping the meeting notes and where are those meeting notes? And with Copilots, you have your own AI assistant taking all of the meeting notes for you. And not just taking meeting notes, but it's also providing you with good insights. So during the meeting itself, I can ask Copilot, for instance, if we're in a team meeting and many people are talking and I want to be inclusive as a leader, I can ask Copilot, like, who hasn't spoken yet? And it will list the people in our team that hasn't raised their voice. And so I can ask a specific person, Linda or Meetun, can you please your input on this? It also based on the agenda and based on the discussions, I can ask Copilot, are there questions that I should be asking now? And it gives me insights to questions that I should be asking. And also, I always, since not everyone yet in our organization has Copilot for Microsoft 365, I'm also being a good citizen. So I'm taking all of the meeting notes because I'm just asking Copilot to generate the meeting notes. I look through them, make sure everything's okay, and then I share them with the rest of the meeting attendees. So that's a huge business use case for just saving a lot of time and improving the quality. The other thing is in just, like I said, improving things that you're writing. So we write a lot of information and a lot of guidance. And so we can use this and we can just ask Copilot to refine and improve and potentially insert some frequently asked questions on the content or in the topic that we're doing. So a lot of those things that just add immediate value to the organization. But I can tell you also, we were engaged with a company to train their executives on Copilot. And I asked, well, how are the executives using Microsoft 365? What apps are they using? Are they using Outlook? Are they using Excel? And I was told that they're using WhatsApp. And of course, there's no point in having Copilot for Microsoft 365 if you're not using the platform. So that's another thing. Yes, you do get superpowers, but you need to have a good kind of digital usage of Microsoft 365 to begin with. And that's why I'm so happy with the packaging that we have together with Cobweb, because here we provide users also with a foundational training on how to use the day-to-day digital tools.
Wonderful. Thanks, Ulrika. That was very insightful. One of my favorite use cases is Copilot with Excel. The need for complex formulas is reduced significantly with the natural language processing in Copilot. So that's one of my favorites. So if there's nothing else, everyone, I think we can certainly end the webinar there. So just to iterate, digital transformation is both about strategically investing in new technology, but also equally as important is to upskill your employees. That's the only way that you're going to realize a return on that investment that you've just put into your technology. And it's about that synergy between people and technology. And as Ulrika said, Cobweb in partnership with Storyhouse is really here to support you and guide you through that journey. Wonderful. Thank you so much for attending. And please, as I said, look out for that thank you email, and please register for that demo for your chance to win an assessment with Cobweb. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thanks, Ulrika.
Bye-bye. Have a lovely day. Bye.
Bye.